What's going on in Staten Island?
I don't know. Something in the water, I guess. I think Staten Island always just had a thing about like the underdog mentality there.
Yeah.
It was always the fifth borough that people forgot. You know, it's not Brooklyn, it's not Manhattan, you know, it's not the Bronx with the Yankees, you know, it's Staten Island. It's where they kept the garbage for many years. And for us, I think it always had sense of community. For me, out of all the boroughs. Because like Brooklyn, you get that, right? People's mom watched it from the window. Johnny, I'll tell your mother, like, you get that attitude. But in Staten Island, it was a real sense of community where you had neighborhoods. You rode your bike. You played in people's backyards. You did things like that where I think that made a bond of people to be like, how can we help each other? Or how can we, you have stories, right? A lot of my stories are from growing up. My stories are crazy. I used to run around my neighborhood dressed as a ninja at night. 10 years old, 14 years old. I'm dressed as a ninja.
What kind of kid were you? Were you a theater kid?
No, I was a weird kid. Just weird.
Were you into comedy?
I was not. I was just like, I was into like math, like Legos.
Oh, math.
And like, I was into math. I was heavy
Well, in
into
Staten
math.
Island, you never know.
So much math. I did. No, I was like kind of just like weird. I was into like fantasy adventure stuff. I did creative writing. I didn't even do D&D. I wasn't even cool enough for D&D. No, I made up my own stories. I think
you were cool enough for D&D. There's nobody that's not cool enough. It was
like I didn't have enough friends to play D&D.
You didn't have friends.
No friends. I had nobody. I was like a loner that just didn't really like get my comedy yet until the junior year of high school. Was really I just started making people laugh, and I was like, oh, this is fun. I could do this.
I would say you were the impetus for the four. Is that correct?
It's hard to say.
Is that fair to say that?
No, I think
when you would watch the show, I remember when it came out, I was like, he's sort of the leader.
Well, there's a difference,
and that's okay because every group has a leader.
Every group has a leader,
of course.
And I wouldn't necessarily call myself the leader, but I would say that I gave us all. I would always be the weirdest, or I'd always be the most out there, or the most didn't give a shit. The guys, I would give them permission to act that way. So I think that's what people would see that. But as much as that, I would follow the lead of the other guys. Sure. With different things. It depends on what we're doing. But in that show, to be weird, nobody's weirder than me. Right. Nobody was more out there than me. Out of the four. I mean, they have their moments for sure, but like I'd always be like, fuck it, let's do it, guys. And it would be like that kind of mentality. And I think that's why you would say that.
That's really beautiful, that, to crucify yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
If Joe doesn't care, then we can go there as well. I felt that a little bit when we would do our YouTube videos with David Dobrik and Jonah and everybody. Sure. I felt like that too. Like, if I probably would fail the most at everything. I would say to them, I would say, turn the camera on, I got something.
Yeah.
And that was always bad. It would never, ever. and David would go, whenever you do this, it doesn't work. Right. And of course.
But then the camera would be on, right?
That's right.
That's right. And then you get your content, right? So I guess you're welcome, really, David, is what we're saying. But no, I think somebody's got to be that guy to do that. But in the same breath, I could say, if I would look, the guys would give me the permission to be crazy because, like, they would smirk or smile, and I'd like, oh, we're onto something here. Yeah. And that would just make us go to 10, So I think it really is just a environment of support, which I was.
What were for the other three guys? Go to each one and tell me what like their laugh triggers are. Like, how would you get them to laugh?
Oh, I mean, Sal was the easiest. I mean, I make Sal crumble at any time. Anything with a look, I could just make the guy go forever. Q gets him back. Q, it took a while for him to really get my sense of humor, I think, too, because he'd be like, this guy is just being loud and like, what's he doing? And then we realized, oh, he's not doing it for anybody but himself. Like that's when he got on board. He was like, oh shit. He's like, this guy's fun, with that. Right. And then with Murr's a little bit more like of an intellectual, but like him and I connect, like we both loved old school, like Mel Brooks movies and Airplanes and things like that, like that slapstick comedy, like goofy. Right. So with him and I, like we balanced it a different way where I'd be like, he just appreciated the goofiness, I think. So it's all the same, but at the end of the day, it was friends making each other laugh. That's what it is. That's what that show is. It's a show about friendship more than anything. Yeah. It's four friends making each other laugh. We don't care if you're laughing honestly. Like we weren't like, oh, this will make them laugh. It was like, oh, you got it? Okay, great. They laughed,
It's built right in there, isn't it? You don't need an audience. If they're laughing, then they're going to be laughing.
Even with our improv back in the day, our shows, we were just having a good time. You can't help have a good time if you're watching people have a good time. I believe that to my core. If you're watching people have a good time, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So if you're enjoying what you're doing genuinely, no matter what it is you're doing out there, people are going to come show up.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it for me. And we just carried that on to the TV show.
Wow. And do you still want to direct?
100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. I just got to direct my first comedy special with Steve Byrne.
You directed his special?
I did his latest one, which is great. The last
How
late
was
night
that?
would see.
How many cameras you do?
It was
for
awesome. That
something
one was
like that?
8. That was 8.
8 cameras.
Which is good. It was so funny because when we did the back, you know, they have all the split screen up, and I'm sitting with the tech director, and he's like, okay, you just tell me what camera you want to pull up, and then we'll look at it big as we're doing it. I'm like, okay, great. And I'm sitting there at the same time watching the 9 cameras, and he was like, do you want me to pull anything? And I'm like, oh shit, I was like, this is my life. I was like, I multicam for 10 years.
Yeah.
My mind watches 10 cameras at once. I'm just like, I'm looking it all over. I didn't need him to switch. And he was like, that's weird. He's like, because people normally want it big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm just, my eyeballs are bouncing all over the screen because in the back of the BTS of the TV show, we had 20 cameras, 10 to 20 cameras on a shoot. So I was always watching a multicam split. So my mind just works that way now.
Yes.
So it was really, really interesting
You've been trained for it.
Trained for it, yeah. So it was pretty cool.
That's incredible.
Multicam thing. But yeah, and then, I've been writing a lot too. I got some scripts that I'm, been working on. I'm really excited about. So I've had time to do that stuff now, right? Like my mind was always just jokers and do that. But now I've opened this floodgate of availability of time.
Is there a point when you're doing a show that's really successful, incredibly successful, that you go, I'm done? Like Larry David. Larry David just famously walked away from Seinfeld, right? Yeah. Which is insane.
Insane, yeah.
But he just couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
Did you ever get like that?
I don't know if I ever felt that way, life happened, things happened in my personal life that made me have to step away from jokers. And do I think I'd still be doing it? I think I probably, would be. We always said we'll stop doing it when we stop having fun. Yeah. And I always still showed up and had fun and whatnot. But now being on the other side of it and not just being 100% laser focused on that, I guess I do see the opportunity cost of just doing the one thing. Yeah. Where it was like, there's always these so many other ideas that I could feel like I could entertain the world or do stuff and things like that. So I think that's a little bit of an eye opener for me for sure.
Do you watch the episodes you're not in?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think it's hard. It must be too hard. Yeah, to see that.
I would think so too.
It's. And I don't know if they would either. And people, I hear from people all saying, "Oh, the show's not the same because you're not in it." Of course, it's not. It's a different show. The show was the 4 of us, right? It wouldn't be the same venue. You pulled one of us out. Yep. So it's a different show now, and people like it for different reasons and whatnot. So, but for me, it's a little too much of like salt on the wound.
Who was your favorite guest star that you had on?
That's hard to say because, we had a lot of fun. My favorite thing, we did that show. I don't know if we did a show dinner party during COVID. Yes. Where it was like basically we wanted to continue to entertain people, but we couldn't do jokers. Yeah. And we're like, guys, what could we do? And we came up with this format called dinner party where the 4 of us had dinner over Zoom, basically. Yeah. And we just had dinner, talked, told stories and stuff. It was on there. It was on True TV. Season. It was on True. It was great. Amazing. People loved it. It was our favorite thing that we've collectively, I think, that we've done. They didn't renew it because we were able to get back out there and do jokers.
Cheap
which I
for
think
them.
Low cost. So low cost. It was such a mistake, honestly. They should have renewed it. It was phenomenal.
Maybe it worked because of the time.
May work because of the time,
because people are like, "Oh, cool! This is what I'm doing. I'm on Zoom."
I know. So I think there was a relation to it. Yeah. But Jeff Daniels, I've befriended through that. Like we befriended him. We had him on the show.
Incredible talent.
And he's unbelievable. And we dumbed him down so much, and he was so onto it. It was, the bit we called it was called "Who Farted with Jeff Daniels." So we did this bit where we booked Jeff Daniels to do a photo shoot for a high-end thing. We played photographer's assistants. And when Jeff Daniels walked in, we had to pretend that we had just farted and make the person that was helping us take the blame for it. And that was the dumbest bit that we did. And we asked Jeff, do us a favor. We know it's so dumb, but we think you'll crush it because we want you to go over the top and be indignant about to find out to get to the bottom of this. Yeah. And he nailed it. He was unbelievable in it. And the way that it came about was we were laughing about this joke, the 4 of us. And I was like, guys, we should just ask him to do it. We had met him when he was doing To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. We went to see it. We got his info. We hung out, whatever. And I said, guys, we should ask him to do it. Back and forth, we were all talking about we should do it. Oh, how are we going to ask him to do it? I said, I didn't even tell the guys. I sent them an email. I said, Jeff, we have an idea for it. It's called Who Farted with Jeff Daniels. We think it'll be really funny. I sent him the email. They didn't even know. He replies to me, I'm in. Right? So I tell the guys, I'm like, guys, Jeff Daniels wants to do the show. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I told him about the Who Farted thing. They're like, what? What are you doing? Why? I'm like, well, he said he loved it. He's going to do it. And they're like,
you pitched Who Farted to Jeff Daniels, to Academy Award winner Jeff Daniels?
They're like,
you moron.
It's a great idea. I'm glad that you did it. But what if he didn't go for it? I'm like, well, he did go for it. So like, what do you got? We're all just sitting here spinning our wheels. I just ask him. And he ended up doing it. It was so great. It was so fun. And I have to say, that was probably my favorite to work with him. He's phenomenal. I love him. He's really good. We still keep in touch. He's a great.